It's been a long time holding this in silence, too long. Every day, right there, close enough to see, hear the laughter and notice the gestures. And no matter how hard one tries to hide it, at some point, this has to come to light. It's no longer possible to pretend it's just companionship, that they are merely parts of each other's routine. It's no longer possible to ignore what happens whenever this presence draws near. Someone sees it differently. They always have. There have been attempts to disguise it, to move forward as if nothing is happening. But there comes a moment when the truth weighs heavily, and the truth is this. There's a feeling here, there always has been. Perhaps this has never crossed your mind. Perhaps it doesn't even matter. But now that you know it, the question remains, what now? What to do with this? It's been a long time holding this in silence. Too long, every day, right there, close enough to see, hear the laughter, and notice the gestures. And no matter how hard one tries to hide it, at some point this has to come to light. It's no longer possible to pretend it's just companionship, that they are merely parts of each other's routine. It's no longer possible to ignore what happens whenever this presence draws near. Someone sees it differently. They always have. There have been attempts to disguise it, to move forward as if nothing is happening. But there comes a moment when the truth weighs heavily, and the truth is this. There's a feeling here, there always has been. Perhaps this has never crossed your mind, perhaps it doesn't even matter. But now that you know it, the question remains, what now? What to do with this? There's no going back. The truth has been spoken. No word can be taken back now. Silence is no longer an option. This revelation changes everything. Perhaps not for you, perhaps not in the way it was imagined. But for those who felt this grow day after day, there's no way to return to the point where everything was just routine. The glances, they've always lingered longer than they should have. Smiles, they were never just kindness, casual encounters. They were never that casual. If this doesn't make sense to you, that's okay. But if it does, if something inside you has always known, always felt something different, then now is the time. The time to stop pretending it's just coincidence. The time to admit there's something here, between you two, that no one has ever had the courage to name. So what comes next? And if the answer is silence, maybe it's easier to pretend this conversation never happened. Maybe it's more comfortable to go on as if nothing was ever said. But ignoring it won't make it disappear. Silence doesn't erase the moments when a glance lasted a few seconds longer than it should have. Silence doesn't change the involuntary shiver that came in moments that should never have mattered, but did. Silence doesn't erase what has already been felt. So if the answer is that, if silence is the choice, that's okay. But it won't change what already exists here. It won't change the fact that someone felt deeply. And what if everything that was just said echoes inside you? What if for a moment doubt arises? What if the truth is that you always knew too but never wanted to admit it? What will you do now? The decision is no longer in the hands of the one who felt first. Now it's in yours. Now that the truth has been spoken, that the cards have been laid on the table, that the feeling is no longer hidden, what will you do with this? Will you ignore it? Pretend you didn't hear? That you never noticed anything? Or will you confront what deep down has been there all along? There are no ready answers. There's no rush. But there's something that cannot be ignored. This is now real. And no matter how much you try to run, forget, avoid, the truth always finds a way to come back. Now the question is yours. What do you feel? What do we do with this? If you are ready to face this, then look at everything again. Look at the moments that seemed simple but now carry a new weight. Do you remember the times when a detail was noticed by someone who shouldn't have paid that much attention? Do you remember when an accidental touch seemed to last longer than necessary? Do you remember the words chosen so carefully, so that they wouldn't reveal too much? It's easy to say there was never anything. It's easy to claim that it was all just friendship, coincidence, or innocent affection. But now that the truth has been spoken, can we really continue pretending? If the answer is yes, then say so. Say you never felt anything. Say that none of it makes sense. Say that every time our eyes met and lingered for a few extra seconds was just a mistake. But say it while looking into the eyes. Say it with the certainty of someone who never thought about it for even a second. Because if there's hesitation, if there's even a moment of doubt, then the answer has already been given. Because when something like this takes root inside someone, it's impossible to just erase it. And if everything changes, if the answer is different from what was expected, if there's room for that possibility, then what comes next? What does it mean to admit that something has always been there waiting to be said? It means making room for the unknown, for what can be beautiful but also frightening. Because stepping out of the comfort zone is dangerous, because there are no guarantees. But what if it's worth it? What if all this time was just a prelude to something that needed the right moment to happen? What if, deep down, this conversation should have happened a long time ago? The answer lies with you. But whatever it is, one thing is certain: nothing will be the same. Now that everything has been said, now that this invisible barrier has been broken, there is no way back to what existed before. Will the routine be the same? Yes. Conversations might continue as if nothing has changed, but something has shifted, and no matter how hard you try to act like nothing happened, that thought will be there, latent, throbbing, inevitable. The words have already been spoken. The question now is no longer if this will affect how you see each other, but how it will happen. Your gazes will still meet, but it will be different. Your smiles will still appear, but they will carry a different meaning now. Your casual encounters will still happen, but they won't be as casual anymore, because the awareness that something exists changes everything. And there's no way to simply ignore it. What happens next? And if you choose distance, maybe the easiest way out is to create space. To pretend that this conversation never took place. Avoid contact. Change the way you speak. Let the shared moments become increasingly rare, as if distance could erase what has already been revealed. But will that solve anything? Does silence really erase the spoken words? Does distancing make the feelings disappear? Or does, with every moment of absence, the weight of doubt only grow heavier? And what if distance isn't a solution but a punishment? What if every moment apart only reinforces that, deep down, this isn't what you truly want? So, what to do? And if you choose to stay, if you decide to face this head-on, if you decide that running away isn't the answer, then what comes next? It means accepting that now there is something between you that needs to be understood. It means opening up to conversations that were never necessary before. It means admitting that this story may just be beginning. And at the same time, it means taking risks. The risk of getting hurt, the risk of realizing that perhaps the feelings aren't reciprocated in the same way, the risk that everything you imagined may not reflect reality. But there's also another risk, the risk of letting slip away something that could have been incredible. Never knowing what would have happened if, for just a moment, courage had been greater than fear. Looking back some time from now and asking yourself, what if I had tried? What if I had said yes? What if I had allowed myself to feel? The truth that cannot be denied. Regardless of the answer, one thing is clear. This means something to you. Because if it didn't mean anything, this conversation wouldn't have come this far. If it didn't mean anything, it would be easy to ignore. Easy to move on as if nothing had been said, but it wasn't easy, was it? Something inside you read each of these words and felt something. Maybe it was fear, maybe it was anxiety, or maybe, just maybe, it was that unsettling feeling that something true has been laid bare. Because when something doesn't affect us, we simply brush it aside and move on. But when it touches something deep within us, there's no pretending nothing happened. So now that everything is clear, now that you know someone feels something strong for you, now that this truth is right in front of you, naked, raw, and straightforward, what are you going to do with it? The moment of choice. If you're going to say you feel nothing, say it now. Say it was all a misunderstanding. Say you never noticed anything, that you never felt anything, that it never crossed your mind. But if you can't say that with complete certainty, if there's doubt, if there's a fragment of feeling, a part of you that always knew, even if you didn't want to admit it, then maybe the choice isn't so simple after all, because the truth is, the heart already knows the answer. The question is, do you have the courage to listen to it? The truth is here and now. If you've made it this far, if these words still resonate within you, it's because something bigger is happening. You can't pretend nothing has changed. You can't treat this as just another conversation. Now that the truth has been spoken, it cannot be erased. So what remains? Choose to ignore and bear the weight of what has been swallowed, or face it head-on and allow something new to happen? Fear may try to stifle any response. Doubt can scream. But there is one thing that cannot be denied. This matters. And when something matters, the worst mistake is to postpone it. And if everything falls apart, yes, there is a risk that nothing will go as expected. Perhaps in the end, this is all a big misunderstanding. Maybe the feelings aren't mutual. Maybe the dynamics will change and closeness will turn into distance. But what if it doesn't? What if this is the beginning of something that has always been there, but you never had the courage to experience? What if fear is the only thing standing in the way of something true happening? Because one thing is certain, nothing will be the same as before. Whatever the answer, whatever the decision, this conversation has already changed everything. What was once comfortable now carries a new weight. What once seemed insignificant now holds a different meaning. And there's no escaping that. The weight of the unsaid. If the choice is to remain silent, understand one thing. This silence will be carried forever. Every time the eyes meet and there is hesitation. Every time the closeness feels uncomfortable, not out of disinterest, but out of fear of having lost something. Every time a moment that could have been special turns into just another memory of what never happened. Because some truths, when ignored, do not disappear. They become ghosts. They haunt thoughts, weigh on shoulders. Ask questions that will never have answers. What if it could have been different? What if you had taken the risk? What if you had said yes? So, what will it be? If the answer is no, then that's okay. But let it be a clear, absolute no, complete with no loopholes. Let it be said with confidence, with certainty, without a shadow of a doubt. Because if there is any fraction of uncertainty, any space for a possibility, then it is not a no, it's fear. And living trapped by fear has never brought happiness to anyone. Now the choice is in your hands. Pretend nothing happened, or face the truth and discover what it might mean. The decision is yours, but remember, some opportunities only come once, and this may be the only one. Time may pass, days may go by as if nothing happened, but this truth will remain here. You can pretend you didn't hear, you can try to convince yourself that nothing has changed, but deep down you know it has. Because words like that don't just disappear, they linger. They cling to every exchanged glance, to every moment of silence that was once comfortable and has now become a weight. Doubt will grow. Every time your paths cross, every time laughter is shared and something inside you asks, what if? Every time this person's presence stirs that unease that was once easy to ignore. The question is no longer whether you will think about it, but when you will admit that you already have. And when that moment comes, will it be too late? And if you do nothing? If the answer is hesitation, if the choice is inaction, then what remains? Time can push you apart. Silence can build barriers. The absence of a response can transform something alive into something that never had a chance to exist. And this truth will linger within you. You can move on. You can go on with your life. You can bury this along with all the other things that never had the courage to happen. But one day, perhaps too late, the memory of all this will return. It will emerge when you least expect it. Maybe during a casual reunion. Maybe when you hear that person's name again. Maybe when you see someone smile in a similar way. And what will remain? The certainty that you had a choice and did nothing. But if the answer is yes, if there's a chance, if something inside you stirred, if this revelation awakened something, then why not? Why not admit that this touched you too? Why not allow yourself to feel at least once without fear of what comes next? Because if there's any possibility of this being real, if there's any chance that this feeling is mutual, then ignoring it is a waste, a mistake, a story that could have been but never will be. And are you ready to carry this for the rest of your life? What comes next? The answer lies within you. But it better be a true answer. No excuses, no procrastination, no pretending you didn't feel anything while reading all of this, because now there's no turning back. Now, every choice will carry weight, and in the future, when you look back, all that will remain is this question. Was it fear or was it a choice? Nothing will be the same. Now the choice is yours. Fear or courage. Comment your answer, leave a like and subscribe for more content like this.